So to clarify, we have Diana Marsh, Ia Bull, and Lydia Curliss, all from the University of Maryland's iSchool. Take it away.
Great. Thank you so much for having us. Lydia, can you scoot back to the last slide? Awesome. So welcome, everyone. We're so glad to see everyone and to be able to talk about this really exciting project. Today, we'll be talking about our Indigenizing SNAC initiative. We'll recap the Editathon, talk about the new Indigenous description group that we're working on, and the new IMLS grant that we have. And I'm Diana Marsh. I'm an assistant professor in archives and digital curation here at the University of Maryland's iSchool.
Sionagad Kolandru Dalanehi, Jelgigan Tawadon, Talik, Awatasi Dola, Sololo Unadasa Negatio, Awa Keli, Anisa Hon, Gately Dolhino. I am Ia Bull. I'm a first-year Ph.D. student at the University of Maryland. I'm an enrolled member of Nachi Nation and ceremonially Gitwagi, a member of Cherokee Ceremonial. Lydia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lydia Curliss. I'm also a PhD student at the University of Maryland and a member of the Nipmuc Hassamisko Band.
Today, we are beaming in from College Park, which is located on the ancestral territories of the Piscataway, Nokashtonk, and Indigenous kin and neighbors. As members of the University of Maryland, we acknowledge as a land-grant university the 202,000 acres of stolen Indigenous land and distributed to the university under the Morrill Act of 1862. We want to acknowledge the separation that these and many other acts of colonialism, assimilation, and genocide, which includes archival collecting, generated between Indigenous people and their homelands. We further acknowledge the continued power and resilience of Indigenous communities and nations, and celebrate the collaborative and decolonizing work that is now taking place in our collections and institutions and in archival work.
So today I'm going to start this presentation by talking about the Editathon from last fall. For those who were at the SNAC annual meeting last year, you may or may not remember, we presented to talk about kind of the process of which we went through. So I'm going to talk a little bit less today about the process and more about the outcomes and kind of next steps that we are taking currently. So last year, our core team was made up of myself, Diana Marsh, Irene Gates, Catherine Satriano, and then Jerry Simmons and Dina from SNAC. And then we worked together with our Indigenous Advisory Board, which included Marge Bruchak, Stephen Curley, Taylor Gibson, Eric Hemingway, Kiahiahi Long, and Melissa Stoner.
Yeah, so the Indigenous participants in the 2021 Indigenous Editathon, there were 18 participants in total, and there were a number of different Indigenous communities represented. I'm gonna list them off now. We have Anishinaabe, Little Traverse Band of Ottawa Indians, Cherokee, Chiricahua Apache, Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, Gitwagi, Catawba, Ganawaki Mohawk, Nachi Nation, Navajo Nation, Nipmuc, Oglala Lakota, Ojibwa Walpole Island First Nation, Oneida Nation of Wisconsin, People Nawash, Pueblo of Isleta, Pueblo of Powaki, Shawnee, Six Nations of Grand River Territory, Tabahada, Taino, Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa, and Yakuts Tule River Tribe.
So the Editathon took place last year, October 11th and 12th, which was Indigenous Peoples Day. And over the 2 days that we ran the Editathon, we had around 64 participants out of an original 137 registrants, and 18 of which were Indigenous. Overall, 50 different SNAC entities were worked on, and this included new entities to the SNAC platform, as well as ones that were just being edited. So from kind of like our goals and what we kind of hope to accomplish, we did have an increased number of Indigenous records and editors and editor allies. We had a greater awareness of SNAC for the Indigenous community, and this included both the participation of Indigenous participants as well as different archivists who work in institutions who might not have been aware of the potential for SNAC for Indigenous communities. We created an editorial guide for describing Indigenous entities in SNAC, which I'll talk about a little bit more in the next slide. But there were also some kind of like concerns and feedback that we received. This included things like continuing to create greater awareness of the issues around Indigenous description in the archival record, which included things like people not really having good sources or knowing where to go to get the information that they wanted to use for SNAC. And also kind of concerns over how SNAC currently works around location and nationality, and challenges to describing Indigenous languages. So one of the most fortuitous kind of things that came out of the Editathon is the editorial guide. This currently lives on the SNAC cooperative site. So if you would like to look at it after this, I highly recommend it. We also have a feedback form. So if you have any kind of critiques or things that you would like us to add or see, this is currently a proposed editorial guide for SNAC, but we're hoping that kind of through some more drafting and work on it, it will become actual SNAC policy. So this guide was created as a collaborative effort between the project team, advisory board, and Indigenous Editathon participants. And post Editathon, we kind of took all the feedback that we received from all these different places and kind of made it into more of a standardized form. It draws from a lot of different scholarship around how to properly describe and identify Indigenous knowledge, as well as how to apply anti-racist practices to description.
So last fall, Lydia and I started the process of applying to the Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program in the Institute of Museum and Library Services in the early grant program, since I'm a new faculty member. And we proposed to ask whether SNAC could fill this really big gap in the archival field, with the premise that SNAC offers a number of important departures from quote unquote traditional archival description that might benefit Native and community discovery and access and use. So first, of course, the ability to connect disparate and geographically and institutionally separated records, which is what SNAC was designed to do outside of that Indigenous context we're talking about. And that's especially important because many of us know from working in colonial repositories that communities want access to all of their materials. And increasingly, content management systems like Mukuru and many community and tribal archives are creating Indigenous spaces and systems for stewarding communities' archival material. But both anecdotally from working in these institutions, and we now have kind of research on this, we know that archival discovery is extremely challenging for Native, First Nations, and Indigenous communities and community-based users compared to other users and in general. Some of you may have seen in your own institutions or elsewhere that some repositories are kind of turning back to subject guides to combat some of the challenges to discovery by creating essentially culture-based or NAGPRA or other kind of thematic subject or lib guides. But of course, those are all within a single institution and only represent that one institution's collection. So SNAC has the ability to be a crucial tool for discovery on a high level and for doing all that reconnective work. Of course, it accommodates descriptive flexibility, so allowing editors to create their own authority records that fit Indigenous needs while potentially using culturally appropriate terminologies, which in turn allows for a focus on Indigenous peoples and communities and entities represented in collections that are often hierarchically organized by or held within colonial or kind of PWI collections. And lastly, SNAC allows for Indigenous community members and allies, as we did in our editathon, to be trained and work as editors. So folks who know this content, understand its complexity, can be the ones creating and editing records.
Yeah, so I want.
So thus far, we've assembled a really great team that came together around the 2021 Editathon and that we've kind of built on. So I want to make a special note here again to Lydia, who did a huge amount of writing on the grant, but has since received a very prestigious Spectrum doctoral fellowship that provides full funding for her program. That has meant, though, that we've been able to bring Ia on to the project, which is really awesome, as well as Amanda Sorensen, who's a second-year PhD student here. And we also want to shout out to some of our new advisory board members. We have a longer list than this, but we want to make sure we've confirmed with everyone they're still willing to do it before we put their names on slides. So to Angie Bain, Selena Ortega-Chalero, and Tiffany Chavis, we're really grateful to have additional advisory board members. We're looking to have a board that's closer to 15 folks from a really wide regional distribution. So that will be really great. And of course, we're looking forward to continuing our collaborations with the SNAC liaisons, with Jerry and Dina, with Catherine Cetriano at Harvard. And we're also very grateful to many Smithsonian colleagues at OCIO, National Anthropological Archives, National Museum of the American Indian, who provided a lot of feedback and had some really amazing preliminary meetings with us. So thank you to everyone, and we're excited to sort of be building this team out as we get started.
Yeah, so talking a little bit about the grant project a little bit more specifically. We aim to accomplish this project's goals in part by hosting and creating educational events informed by our Indigenous Advisory Board, ongoing research in the form of groups and testing, and by creating and maintaining relationships with Indigenous communities. Our 4 targeted groups include Indigenous participants in the 2021 Editathon, who now know SNAC, if they didn't before, Indigenous library, archive, and museum professionals who know cataloging and have vested interests in platforms like, but not necessarily know SNAC. 3 is Indigenous students within IMLS and related disciplines like history, archaeology, who can provide input on SNAC's relevance for current Indigenous researchers' needs, community needs, etc. Their home discipline and fields as well. Lastly, we want to focus on Indigenous community members who have an interest as researchers or in becoming researchers, but not necessarily information professionals, and specifically these folks that know nothing about SNAC, to evaluate the usability of SNAC to meet community needs, as well as designing future tools for Indigenous discovery.
And as Jerry mentioned yesterday, we're currently forming an Indigenous description group modeled after SNAC's enslaved description group. And like that group, ours would function as a subgroup within editorial standards. So we're hoping that will allow us to continue to update this editorial guide, which has gotten a lot of interest and traction since it came out, to continue our efforts to have long-term Indigenous editorial engagement and to work on the sort of nitty-gritty of controlled vocabularies and a wider array of cultural technical upgrades, maybe including Indigenous thesauri, subjects, place names, languages, orthographies, and beyond. So coming soon, like as I mentioned, the Indigenous Descriptions Group, please let us know if you're interested in that. We're also going to be hiring archival consultants who work in tribal contexts. And sort of, we were thinking of this as kind of like a bigger honoraria to sort of work with us throughout 3 years on the kind of information side and thinking about what are the needs of communities and information systems.
Did we lose sound for Diana?
I think so. I think they froze.
Oh, good. I had a,
Oh,
okay. Yeah, the feed looks okay still.
I guess we'll just wait for them to come back.
They may want to turn off their video.
yeah, she's not on the list now.
I hope they can come back. This is I want to hear more about this. It's really,
Tell us more.
Yeah.
Let's give them a few seconds.
So Diana just texted me to let me know that the internet, like the UMD internet connection just died.
oh my gosh.
So I can kind of summarize this, and then if anybody has any more specific questions, they can kind of ask Diana when they come back. So beyond hiring the 4 tribal archival consultants, we're also looking to hire Indigenous MLIS students to work focusing on doing some development and metadata work. This would be a position where they work with archival consultants as well as a developer for this project. There's also a new website that is currently in development and will host all of the information kind of related to this project. Please follow Twitter. So it's at Indigenized SNAC. And there will be an email address, indigenizedSNAC@umd.edu. And then just overall, we want to say a huge thank you to all of the people that helped out with the Editathon. So our project team, our Indigenous Advisory Board, Dr. Daniel Pitty, the Event Day SNAC editor support and peer reviewers, all of the volunteer Indigenous peer reviewers, and all the Smithsonian and local collections teams that helped us get ready for the event. So with that, I'll stop the share and let's hold on and wait to see if Diana comes back.
If she's self.
We're on a phone.
Okay, I finished the slides, but we're opening it up to questions.
Okay.
Okay.
And apologies to the room. We're at this giant university and yet our campus Wi-Fi doesn't seem to work very well in the first week of classes. I think it's overwhelmed by everyone being back in person. So apologies, we just got completely booted off the internet.
Well, it's glad to have you back. So if there are questions, I'm going to leave it open for a few minutes and let us know. You can speak up if you're comfortable doing so, or give us questions in the chat for Ia, Diana, and Lydia. Okay, for now, I don't see any questions coming into the chat. I want to thank you again. Oh, I'm sorry, here's one. Oh, Stephen Curly, what's the best way for communities to get involved? Thanks, Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Yeah, I would say probably emailing just to be like put into the loop for right now. So if folks wanted to reach out to the different modes of public outreach that we've got so far, with the website coming online, we have the email that we monitor, the Twitter. Thanks for posting that, Lydia. I think that's probably the best part, kind of like early on in the process right now. But we definitely hope to kind of reach out to communities, not rely on communities purely to reach out to us. But yeah, if you're interested, shoot us an email, tweet at us or something.
I will also say, as part of the grant, we wrote in doing basically community presentations. So being able to bring kind of SNAC and the usability of SNAC to different communities. So if you know of communities that would be interested in it, or your own community is interested in it, definitely reach out.
Thank you, Lydia. And once again, I'm going to say, and I'm sure everyone will join me in this, the biggest congratulations to you, to Ia, to Diana for your leadership on this, and the advisory committee and everyone has been involved in this effort. Congratulations on the amazing work that you've done so far. The grants you've been given are just, I'm sure, the tip of the iceberg for this entire project, and I'm very proud and excited to be a part of it.
And again, thank you, Jerry and Dina and Daniel and everyone for being so supportive. As folks probably heard yesterday and last year, Dina and Jerry did tons of extra SNAC schools, tons of extra work to make the Editathon happen, and have been basically constant consultants on the grant process as well. So that's all out of the side of their desks, and we're just so grateful.
Wonderful. Thank you again for bringing this presentation to the SNAC annual meeting. Okay,